What is up, guys? I'm your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and today I got a special guest. We have the Charred Gambit right here, and I'll let you introduce yourself too. But Charred has really cool content on his channel, and I love listening to him talk about the game Marvel Champions. And the big reason that I wanted to have him on for this episode is that I feel like he is the polar opposite of the type of player that I am. So he talks about it a lot on his channel, and so you guys can definitely go check him out. But he is more of a thematic type player, and I am more of like a mechanical type player. So I know a lot of you guys criticize me and say, hey, like, can you play more of the Mad games? It's not just about the numbers. I don't think I'm like entirely about the numbers, but Chard is that guy. So please definitely go check out his channel and support him if you want to see content that's more in that type of thing. Is there anything else that you want to add, like your handles and all that stuff?
Yeah, so hi, I run the channel The Charred Gambit. I usually just go by Char on there. That's just what I've been going by on, the internet for as long as I can remember. My handles on everything is basically at Charred Gambit, so you can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Bluesky, whatever, wherever you want to follow me, Twitch. Yeah, I mean, I talk about the game. I have, weekly discussions that are kind of like podcasts, throw them on the background, kind of like this one. There's also gameplay and then other things. I make guides and whatnot. So, yeah, there's a ton of stuff there. If you want to check it out, go ahead.
Yeah, I will put the links to all your social media stuff in the description of this video. Okay, so I
Yeah.
have on my phone, I got like all the questions on here. So, and at the end of this video, after we get through all that stuff, I do have some questions from the channel members, and they ask you
Awesome.
some pretty difficult questions actually, and I'm excited to see what your answer is for this stuff. So,
I didn't even know that, so I'm excited.
yeah. Okay, so the first thing that I want to ask you was, what is the most fun thing about Marvel Champions for you? Because I feel like we are such different types of players, and I think that we get fun in different ways from this game. So for you, what is like the funnest part about Marvel Champions?
Yeah, so this is a couple of there's like multiple aspects I can take this question, but I think the key part for me where I find a lot of fun in the game is just playing as a hero and truly embodying that hero. So that manifests in both the mechanics, even though I'm not like the most mechanics focused player. Something not necessarily the mechanics matching the theme. I just need to find the character fun. So like I always give the core box example where She-Hulk for people who were playing for a long time wasn't super well received. And when I got into the game, really, last year, I've only been in about a year. She was the only core box hero I really liked. So it was really weird coming on a line and seeing that everyone thought so lowly of her. I was like, oh, I love this hero. Like, I just thought her flipping was unique. But in general, my answer to that would be where I find the enjoyment is just playing heroes that I personally find fun, but also putting them up against a villain that it makes sense for them to face. And that's where the theme aspect comes in, where whether I pick the hero first or the villain first, when I'm sitting down to play, it's like if I'm picking an Avenger villain, the only heroes I even think of, like first, second, even third, fourth, fifth plays, as ever long you want to extrapolate it, it's only Avenger heroes. There are very rare times, unless I'm sitting down with a buddy to play a game and he brings a certain villain over or a hero over, that I'll like go out of theme, because that's just kind of where I find the most fun.
Yeah. It's cool you mentioned She-Hulk. I've seen on your channel that you are a big She-Hulk fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also I've grown a lot towards liking She-Hulk, and I think She-Hulk is really cool. I so for her, it's really her mechanics that drew me into her, and I like the flipping mechanic of being able to do that. I would say for me, where I find the most enjoyment is I like to feel like that I am that hero, so similar to you, but I like to be able to like do the things that I would do if I were like actually that hero. So like
Hmm.
Spider-Man, for example, he like kind of pulls his punches right every single time he attacks someone.
Hmm.
So for
Yeah.
me, it's kind of like I don't know if you know about the Superior Spider-Man whenever Otto Octavius took over Spider-Man's body, but
Kind of,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, in the comics he pretty much didn't pull punches, right? He was just like, I'm Spider-Man, let me like do all the stuff. So for
Yeah.
me, it's kind of like I don't know, like I'm a big fan of that character, but it's kind of like now I'm Spider-Man, I have his powers. I'm gonna like maximize everything I can and like
Yeah.
destroy the villain because now I'm Spider-Man. So I like feeling like I am him, but not his personality, I guess, but like
Yeah.
my personality of trying to destroy it, I guess. So I guess that's kind of where the mechanics come in for me. And yeah, for me, I would say that a lot of the heroes that I don't like as much thematically, their pull for me in the game is the mechanic part of that, right? Because when I first started playing
Right.
Spider-Man was kind of my only hero, because I really
Mhm.
felt more like identified with him, I guess. Yeah.
I was gonna say mechanics for me kind of manifest in a different way. Again, I'm gonna go back to She-Hulk. It's like one of the heroes I talk about the most. Um, Coming from like different backgrounds from different card games I'd played in the past, whether growing up competitively and whatnot, I found that the biggest I don't want to call it a gimmick, but the biggest like pull factor for this game for me was I think the mechanics are super fun, and the biggest mechanic that I found the most fun was flipping. Once I took a couple games to understand how it worked, and She Hulk was the character that most obviously was like you want to flip every turn, like that is literally what you want to do on this character if you can. And obviously, when you're starting the game, I'm not counting advances in the encounter deck. So if I hit an advance on Rhino, I'm like, oh, well, I guess I just lose. But I would still do it every time. I would flip up, do the 2 damage, flip down, prevent a threat, flip up, flip down, flip up, flip down. And it was just like, that's how I learned to play the game. And like, if I can do that on every hero, that if possible, I do it every turn. Obviously, I'm not going to do it on someone like Drax because like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But heroes that it makes sense to do that. I think flipping specifically in heroes is like the biggest mechanic that I find the most fun.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more actually, and I'm surprised that we're like agreeing so much right now. We'll go into like some more dissenting stuff later, but
Yeah,
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 I mean, flipping is my absolute favorite part of Marvel Champions. I think it's the most unique mechanic of the game, and I think it's what really separates Marvel Champions from every other game. And I like Peter Parker Spider-Man a lot. For him, I feel like he's not reliant on flipping, which is what makes me really
yeah,
enjoy it more. It's like I get to dictate when and where I flip. She-Hulk, I still love her a lot, but I do think that she has to flip at some point to be good, and it's fun maneuvering around that as well. But yeah, so both those characters, I mean, I think they're both like my top, 10, top five favorite heroes in the game. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree that flipping is really cool. And you mentioned something that's actually my next like topic that I want to discuss with you
yeah,
is your background. So I know that you come from a trading card game background. And
yeah,
I think that you said that you played One Piece before jumping
yeah.
into Marvel Champions, right? Can
Right.
you talk a little bit about that? I've actually played a little bit of One Piece, and it's well after Marvel Champions, and I actually thought it's a
Yeah.
really fun game. I can't
Yep.
see why you would leave that game for Marvel Champions. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, yeah. Can you tell us what led you to leave like One Piece into Marvel Champions? Like, is it like the community, the gameplay?
Yeah, so I would say it's a combination of a couple things. So I still really do like One Piece. I like the IP a ton. I like the game and I like the gameplay. Even now, a couple sets removed, I still follow like the meta and like tournaments to an extent. Like I'll see results every now and then. But it was kind of a perfect storm of a couple things. So around the time when I started getting into this game, and I guess migrating out of One Piece is around the time when my play group or the people I would go to locals with, which was my cousin and a friend I've known since second grade at this point, so like 15 plus years. We would all go to locals together, but life things came up with one of the friends, and he ran into some health issues, so that kind of like killed a lot of my motivation because it was kind of like a social experience for me too. Even though I did really like the gameplay and the mechanics and things like that. But then there was also another side of it where I kind of felt disenfranchised with TCGs as a model. I understand, and I want to like tread kind of lightly here because I understand people like buying and collecting cards. It's fun. Gambling is fun, but it's also a very difficult vice for a lot of people. And I felt that not that I necessarily was falling into that type of gambling vice, but I felt like it the effects of like following a set release and being like, oh, I either have to buy a box or I need to buy singles to keep up. Like every single set, it was like every 2 to 3 months. And it felt like I was investing so much money into something that because I didn't have that like support group that I was going to locals with or going to regionals with, I had like diminishing values. Like I was spending more money, but I was having less fun with the game. And that kind of like, it was a perfect storm where I was kind of tired of like, oh, I need to buy 4 singles, or like I need to buy a structure deck, but I need to buy like two of them to get every copies of a card, which felt really bad. And then it's like I started having more fun playing Marvel Champions after I had got it, on a whim on a sale because I wanted to try it out. And I was like, well, it's not PvP, but I also don't need to buy $400 worth of cards every 4 months to keep playing the game. It's like you know, Marvel Champions isn't free, but when you compare something that has randomization to you know what you're getting every single time, it was kind of like a natural, you know, progression. Not to say I don't still like One Piece. Luckily, my friend is in better health now, and we
Nice.
might start playing the game and going to locals again. But I highly doubt at this point, especially you know making my channel and whatnot, I would ever be into it as much as I was back maybe into end of 2023. Sorry, yeah, end of 2023, beginning of 2024, that area.
Yeah,
Um, that's a yeah, that
gotcha.
was basically it.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you, and that's kind of my big draw to Marvel Champions too, is that we don't have to like constantly keep up with the meta and like pay a bunch of money. The $400 you don't have to pay like one time to like get everything, and then you don't
Yeah,
have to like add
yeah.
anymore. Versus like for other games, you know, it's I mean all the like best cards right now are gonna not be as good in a year, and you have to always buy new stuff. So like you know, She-Hulk, I think it's still one of the I think she is a very good hero right now, and she can clear all the newest content, right? I think she's super solid,
Mm,
and I really like that she's able to do that. That's one of the biggest draws to this game is that they're not obsolete, even though you know some people think that her cards are outdated, and I can definitely see the argument for that. I think that her like in totality, her as a hero is still really good, like right
mhm.
now.
And I was
Um,
gonna
yeah,
jump in as well. Another reason that I guess I was kind of drawn to it is that because that like support group around me that went to locals, my cousin and my friend kind of depleted because of you know just issues coming up. Marvel Champions also drew me into it, and because I could play it solo. Like I like mechanics of card games. I like the you know you make a deck to try and be consistent depending on what you're going for, right? But you make the deck to try and accomplish a goal, and like I don't need to sit against from another player of someone I don't know because you know the people that I would usually play with were going through things. I can just you know play solo and you know still have fun with it, still have fun with the mechanics of you know what am I going to draw into? Is it worth to flip down? Like all that
yeah,
decision making that I really had fun with from card games are all in this game,
yeah.
and I can you know kind of fine tune the difficulty to wherever I find the most fun through expert, standard, modular sets, you name it. Heroic, I haven't dived into, but I
Yeah,
don't think I
same,
ever will.
same.
I'll just be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean it's the same for me. It's just like not having friends to play with. Marvel Champs is like
Yeah.
perfect because like I can play this in true solo, and even then that wasn't. I would say that was like not really enough because I wanted to share my experience, you know, with people, and I didn't really have a Marvel Champs community like where I am. So
Mhm.
that's where I kind of found online, and then since doing this, I've convinced a lot of people to start playing Marvel Champions, and yeah, I mean, I really like talking about the game and just you know learning more about it as well. Have you convinced your cousin and your friend that you play One Piece with and to get into Marvel Champions, or are they only One Piece people?
Yeah, so luckily my friend is in much better health now than he was back then, and my cousin as well. He likes all types of card games. After One Piece, he kind of got into Magic Commander by himself, which you know we kind of went into different games. But no, I would say I've gotten my friend a lot more into it than my cousin. My cousin will sit down and play when we get together, and you know we have been getting together. My friend, he came over. I mean, just last night we sat down and did a two-player game. So
Nice.
he's probably not as far into it as I am, like making a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
but he is really far into it. He has almost all of the content,
Oh
even you know,
wow. Okay.
yeah, he got it way faster than I did.
Oh
So he's
snap.
definitely into
Yeah.
it. And he's one of the people though who like buys all the content
Okay.
and then plays through it. He
Yeah.
doesn't like play through buy. So that's kind of why he kind of front loaded. But you know, I'm envious because he has so much more to discover, like I did throughout this past year of going through the game. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
remember.
we
Yeah. Sorry.
no, you're good. I said we just had a lot of fun like last night, and I stream with my friend as well. Not to like plug myself, but we I do a weekly stream with him, and I'm playing through Age of Apocalypse for the first time in
Yeah.
two players, so it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I think it's interesting that you know some players are Mario Champion. I see it all the time, like you know on Facebook or Reddit or like whatever. People be telling about how they bought the entire game and they haven't played a game yet. And I mean that's something that I always want to do. Like for every game that I get into, like One Piece or Con, it doesn't matter. I want to buy everything and then before I even play. But I know that I would just feel too guilty doing that. So Mario Champs, similar to you, I also just bought as I like kept playing, and I remember being like, man, I really want to get that hero pack, but I gotta wait till it like goes on sale. Like, yeah, yeah. So it's really cool that your friend did that. I'm also envious of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the same way. It was so like I kind of front loaded the way I acquired the game was pretty nice because there was Facebook Marketplace deals in my area. Hopefully,
Nice.
not similar to the MacBook story off the stream that no one heard, but like no, there was someone who was selling their like collection. It wasn't like a full collection, but I there was like two people in my area selling like different halves of a collection, so I was luckily able to get most of it at a pretty good discount, which I was happy about. And because I knew from like after I played like 10, maybe 15 games, I'm like, this is like, I'm going to get obsessed with this. Like, I can already see the writing on the wall. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll just take the splurge and buy the content. But I still did go through it slowly. And then, like I said, I held off on buying the recent expansion box until like I got it for Christmas this past year. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
it's been fun for sure. Oh, I was gonna mention that an example of holding off was like I didn't play any of the X-Men until I finished literally everything else, even though I had some of them because I was like I need to finish everything else first, and then I'll get to the X-Men, and
Yeah.
I didn't regret doing that. So
Yeah, I could never do that. Yeah, for me, whatever I had, if I wanted to play, then I played it. But I had so many stuff that I never played, because I only bought their hero packs for their cards, right? So like I bought the Wasp hero pack like really really early on because I wanted to use the Power Novas. I wanted I think she has like the Quinn Carrier and just some really nice basic cards like Spider-Man Miles Morales. And then I used those cards in like a bunch of decks, but then I never played her until like I don't know, maybe a few months ago was the first time that I actually played
my
her.
gosh, yeah,
So yeah, I mean, but if there's a hero that I really want to play, I don't care if they're X-Men or I'm gonna
yeah.
just jump into it. Yeah,
I
but
feel too guilty doing that. I can't just like open it, take the cards out, and then throw it to the side. I have to at least try them once or
yeah,
twice.
I feel like that's a part of your like thematic, your like thematic presence, wanting
Yeah.
you to play the heroes and specifically in the order of like, okay, I'm not in the X-Men yet, I haven't met them, I'm not gonna play them yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
It's a quick side note, because this is not a One Piece podcast, but you said you're a fan of the IP. Are you caught up with the manga?
Um, yes, to an extent. I'm like 4 or 5 chapters behind.
Okay.
So, I saw the before he went on that break like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I saw that chapter, which was like, okay, that was crazy. But I haven't seen the two or three after that. So
Okay.
basically caught up.
Okay, I'm not gonna spoil anything, so that's good for the Marvel Champions audience because they don't have to watch us talk about it. But the
Yeah.
last chapter is
I keep
crazy.
hearing it's insane. I keep hearing.
Yeah, yeah.
I have
There's
my sister's boyfriend and my friend are like, "Have you read the latest chapter yet?" I'm like, "No, I haven't read it yet."
yeah,
And then he asked me again yesterday when he saw me in person. I'm like, "I haven't read it yet, so I'm gonna have to do it. You're the third person. I'm gonna have to do it
yeah,
now, right after this."
yeah. It's really good. I definitely recommend it for anyone that wants to get into One Piece. This is the time, but read the manga. I think the manga is a
Read
lot more
it.
interesting.
Just read it. I'm just gonna get ahead. Just read it. It's so
Yeah,
much faster and it's better. Hot take. Not even a hot take. Just read it. It's better.
yeah. I also agree. Okay, so back to Mario Champions. Question that I had for you. I think that some people may also be wondering this, and it's hard for me to wrap my mind around the thematics of the game. So
Right.
the question is, how much do you care about winning? And to you, is winning tied to having fun? So I've seen on your channel, oftentimes if you're playing like an easier villain, you want to hinder the hero a little bit by not building like the strongest deck for the hero. I never do that. I always like people. I do like member requests from channel members where they'll give me like, I want you to build a deck for like this thing or whatever, but you can't. You only play in protection. Shouts to Nar Analyty always wants me to do protection. So like those would be the limiters. But then like I'm like, okay, I can do protection. Well, I'm gonna put 3 protection cards, and then I'm gonna have like all basic stuff because I want to play as strong as I can. So like, I apologize to everyone that I've done that to, but for me, it's really about maximizing what I can do. And I know you have a lot of fun limiting yourself. How does that work with having fun in Marvel Champions?
Yeah, so I think there's two different ways that you can, and I talk about this on like a difficulty video one time. I think there's two different levers you can modify in this game for difficulty, and I'll get to if the win factors into the fun afterwards. The first one is making the villains harder. So, we have those levers where it's like standard, we have expert 2, standard 2, right? Those are really hard. We have heroic, we have, the really hard modular sets. Like, even if you want to go crazy, you could do like the Days of Future Past modular set, which is absolutely insane. Even though it's technically not a modular set, you could put it in as one. And so like there's so many ways on the villain scale that you can make them harder. I just think that I have more fun making the my hero weaker, and I think weaker is like they're definitely weaker because like I sometimes I'll limit the card pool, or like someone gives me a specific challenge or things like that. And I just think um I don't know, I think it ties in with the theming because if I'm fighting someone, let's just like, okay, we'll say like a non-controversial weak villain, someone like Absorbing Man. If I'm going against him, right, like, I feel like putting in a modular set like Days of Future Past immediately breaks like the theming for me. Like, I can't do that. Like, I can't increase his slider in that way. I could do like a standard two, an extra two. So the only thing that makes sense for me is to like, okay, I'm gonna fight him with an Avengers hero, but I'm not gonna bring Captain America against him. I'm gonna bring someone like I'm trying to think someone that's like arguably weaker than Cap. Let's say like Wasp, right? I'll do Wasp instead, and that's something that it's like, okay, if the hero itself and like I make a really strong deck and it still feels like I'm punching down, I guess it kind of answers this fun question where, it's like a lot of the fun I find in the game is playing a game against a villain where I feel like not that we're on even playing field because I do like to win, I'll be honest, but not that we're necessarily even, but like it's not like a walk in the park either. And so I guess for your example, where I can give this, where when I was figuring out what I wanted to do with my channel and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, I still haven't beaten every villain on expert, like even now today. It's not that I haven't tried or like that I have tried and failed. It's like if I want to get an expert win against like a Magneto, or like I beat Magneto on expert, but if I want to get an expert win on like Ronin or Venom Goblin, I could load in with like Cyclops leadership and I could probably steamroll like both of them with like no issue. Like I'm almost positive I could have the entire card pool. I don't think I'm bad at the game, but I just don't think I don't find enjoyment in like kind of like that really high power fantasy, I guess. I find more of the enjoyment where it's kind of a close battle. Like the decks are kind of like evenly matched, and I feel like I'm overcoming through my play rather than my play and deck building. I feel like that's a weird. I feel like that's a weird way to try to explain it or talk it
No,
out.
no,
But
yeah.
I do like to win. To answer the second part of the question, I will say in solo, winning is probably more of a goal of mine than in multiplayer. In multiplayer, the win or loss doesn't matter as long as the game is memorable. We had a lot of fun. Like last night, I played Mansion Attack with my friend, and they flipped Pursued by the Pass on the first turn, and we were getting steamrolled, and we still managed to win, but it didn't look like we were going to. And I would have
Yeah.
had fun whether I lost my last health point or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm understanding a little bit more.
Yeah,
I would ask you, what's if you had to attribute a percentage to it, right? How much
right.
percentage do you think that winning adds to like having fun for you? Like, do you think that winning is
Mm.
like, I don't know if that's even a good question, actually.
I'm trying to think. I no, I again, so like solo specifically, I do like to win because it's kind of like it's a mano y mano, like it's me against the
Yeah.
villain, right? Like I want to win in this scenario, so I would say, in solo specifically, let's say like 50% of my enjoyment is if I get the win, right?
Okay.
Let's say like in multiplayer, it's probably like 10,
Oh,
20,
snap.
like
Okay.
so. It also depends on the type of multiplayer game. Like if we're doing a campaign, okay, like that probably jumps up. If we're
Yeah.
just playing for fun on a random night, like last night, the win does not matter.
Yeah.
It's more like if we had fun throughout the game,
Yeah.
going through the motions and things like
It's
that.
it's crazy. I think I'm the opposite of you. So I think that
Okay.
for multiplayer, I find that our group, we really care a lot more about winning. Maybe it's because it's more of a time investment, but I would
Yeah.
say that in multiplayer, it's almost like 100% for us, like how much winning impacts if we had fun. And like I find that if we're like losing and like getting destroyed, everyone at the table is just complaining. And we're always complaining the entire time, like, man, like this sucks, like da da da. And then if we lose, we're just like, all right, let's do it again. Like this is not like well, we have to win, yeah. And then for in solo, I think I definitely still attribute winning a lot more to like having fun. But for me, losing is fun if it feels like I can win. Like if it feels like I'm winning, and the villain
Yeah.
just beats me out of nowhere. That's fun. But if it's like I'm just like facing a losing battle and I'm just like getting wrecked like the entire game and I feel like
Yeah.
it's hopeless, that's a little bit less fun to me. Yeah, I don't know if you can chime in there.
Yeah, so I would say that I kind of agree kind of on the solo side. like where I find a lot of that fun and enjoyment is kind of like this give or take where I'm trying to put it like in a villain terms where I think it would be a good example. I don't know if this is your experience, but as someone who hasn't played expert Thanos a ton, I have a handful of wins on him with strong decks. I feel like Thanos is one of those characters where again, you can study his encounter deck and you can see how many what is it? It's like Avatar, the one that
Yeah,
gives
the
him like
Avatar
overkill
deck.
or piercing on a boost or something. Like you can obviously count the encounter deck and be like, okay, I can just block with allies the rest of the game. But like as someone who I don't necessarily get that granular other than counting advances because I think that's just something that happens when you play in solo. But I kind of like in a what's it called? I kind of like a scenario or a difficulty level where it feels like Thanos, where if you don't have a plan going in, he's gonna like absolutely wreck you. But if you have a plan, it's kind of like this give and take, this like tug and pull, where some turns he's not activating his Infinity Stone, so it's like okay, it's a bit of a weaker, but then he activates an Infinity Stone or two, and he also swings for really big, and he also has like steady or stalwart. So it's like it feels like he's constantly fighting you for a win, whereas something that has I find myself not liking villains that have really front loaded tempo or really back loaded tempo. And an example would be like, I don't know, someone that gives you a ton of stuff to deal with on the board early. And then the other
Ronan.
example was be like, I'm dreading having to fight Venom Goblin. I'm going to have to do it eventually for the series on my channel. But having to plan around needing to do like whatever his stage 3 health is in one turn because he gives you 3 encounter cards and that's just lose the game written on it basically.
Yeah.
So if he flips those, yeah, it's a roundabout way of
Yeah.
answering that question.
So I want to jump back on something that you said a little bit earlier about wanting to match the difficulty and having the most fun whenever it's a close game. I
Yes.
totally agree with that. Like that part I can relate to a lot because I want to power up my hero, but I want the villain to also be really strong and have a close game. But I don't want to give them like crazy module sets like Expert 2 or Standard 2. And I do have a few
Yeah.
of those, Expert 2, Standard 2 games on my channel, but that's only because I feel the hero can really like also power up. And for the example that you said, I would, I would suggest that you try Cyclops against Expert Ronin and Expert Venom Goblin, because I think that those matchups are actually pretty like even peel for Cyclops specifically. And I think the tougher one might actually be Venom Goblin if you don't tech for him. If you just go with the crazy
Yeah.
like leadership deck, and it's a challenge that I've actually never done because I am scared
Um,
of it. I don't even want to attempt it because I feel like I have to tech too hard because Cyclops does not have 3 cost attack
yeah.
events in his kit. So if you try that matchup with just like a generic, really powerful X-Men Uncanny Leadership deck, I think that
Yeah.
it can be very close. And you might find enjoyment that way. But I know you probably won't do it because it's Cyclops against Venom Goblin. I mean, he's not an X-Men villain, but
Well, eventually I'll probably try it because you gave me the idea. But I want to in the series, like I want to have a even like kind of playing field matchup win first, and then I can like okay, I feel like I've actually bested him. Now I can do kind of these hard, these heroes that I think have so many strengths over the other ones. It's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just kind of how I view the game. So I love Cyclops. He's like my favorite X-Men, but
yeah.
he's really strong, and like when I play him, I feel extremely strong when I play him. So um, yeah,
Yeah, I see your Cyclops shirt there.
yeah.
Cyclops is one of my favorite X-Men too. It's him and Magneto. If you consider Magneto X-Men, like he's up there, but like him and Cyclops are really
He is
cool.
in this game. He is in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
game. So
Okay, I also want to talk about something that I've seen you talk about on the channel, and I want to give a shout out to Villain Theory because I saw him put up these definitions for it's called a Johnny, Spike, and Timmy player, and this is something that I have never heard about until very recently in Marvel Champions, whenever a lot of you guys are talking about it. So I'm gonna put the definitions up for the people to see, and I need to actually pull them up right now because I don't remember. Okay, so it says here that Spike is about wanting to win consistently and they want to optimize efficiency. And Johnny is about wanting to win with style. And then they have creative combos, unusual combos, stuff like that. And Timmy is wanting to win with big cards and they love to see a huge impact. So I know because I watched like a bunch of your videos. You are a Johnny Spike type of player, right? So you're like predominantly Johnny, I think, and then
yeah,
there's a little bit of spike in you trying to win more consistently, and that's probably what you're
yeah.
just talking about like how you enjoy winning. So I actually wanted to ask you, and don't tell me yet because I feel it would be fun to do this. So can you give a percentage to how much Johnny you are, how much Spike, and how much Timmy. And maybe it's like 0% Timmy, right? Like 80
Yeah.
Johnny, 20 Spike. And then I'm gonna try to guess what percentage you are, and then I want you to tell me afterwards. So let me know whenever
Okay,
you have an
so
idea.
yeah, let me get out of the curve real quick. So, thanks so much, Villain Theory, for the definitions. But I think the person who really brought this into the creator sphere talking about it was actually Winning Hand. They talked about it first, and that's where I got the idea from. So, shout out to Boom Guy. Just wanted to do that real
Man,
quick. But
shots to
yeah,
villain
that's
theory. No, I was kidding. I was kidding.
yeah. No, I think it was Boom Guy who talked about it first. They're derived from Magic the Gathering player profile, something like that. It's a bit of background, but let me think of the percentage real quick. Hmm. Um, I think I've got one. I think I had an idea, but I never really
Yeah.
put Timmy in the equation, so I
Okay.
just threw him in. I think I've got it.
Okay. Okay. I would guess. I would say you're 0% Timmy. So maybe that's
Okay.
it. And then I think for Johnny, which is the one that you want to win with style, I think usually more thematic type players would identify more with the Johnny type player. I would say maybe you're like I would say I before this, I think I would say maybe you're like 80% Johnny, but after talking with you a little bit more, I think maybe like 65% Johnny and like 35% Spike.
So you were really close, I'll tell you that. So when I originally did my own breakdown in I don't remember if it was in the video or not, or like thought about it, my original answer was 60-40. But
Okay.
now since you asked me on here, I think I do have a little Timmy every now and then. I love Gamma Slam on She-Hulk, so that's my number one example. I would say it would probably be like, if I had to put Timmy in there, it's 60-30-10. So
Okay.
you were extremely close.
Yeah.
I think the spike specifically comes from because I played the One Piece TCG competitively. Like I went to locals,
Yeah.
I went to regionals, and even though I never played the best deck, I would play like the second or third best deck, and I was obviously trying to make the best deck I
Yeah.
could. So that's like the spike, but I'd say it's a lot less prevalent in this game because one, it's not competitive, it's co-op. Even though you can tweak the modulars and difficulty, but I just have fun playing the heroes, the theming, and but that doesn't overtake the idea of like I evaluate a card. I'm like, man, this card is terrible. I'm never gonna play this. I'm not gonna name any cards here, but they have been sitting in my box since I've opened the pack, so they know which cards they are. It's just like I'm just never gonna play them because I just don't see why I ever would. It's just like one of those things where even for a theming reason, I'm just gonna play a slightly better card.
Yeah.
Um,
Like the symbiote suit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
no, no, yeah, symbiote. That's a whole discussion on itself.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun if you got Stretch on here, the heroic player. He has some thoughts on symbiote suit. So
Yeah,
if you want
he
more content ideas in the future,
yeah, he's commented. I had a poll on one of my well, I do like channel polls or whatever, and I
yeah.
asked you guys like about like different cards and stuff, and then he had like a whole thing for the symbiote suit, and I've never seen him so passionate before than when they're talking about the
Yeah,
symbiote suit. I'm
he's a
not
very
sure.
passionate opinion that it
Yeah,
is not a good card. So it's very interesting to see.
yeah, I'm not. I'm inclined to agree with him, but I think that I don't have enough experience with the symbiote suits. Well, with playing the card to actually have a very informed opinion. I know that when I do like the custom gameplay requests, channel members very often put the symbiote suit in the deck, but they don't require that I play them. So I never ever play them. So I apologize to everyone that puts that in. I'm not gonna play it unless you say I have to play that card in the game.
I guess I'll guess yours. What is your percentage if you had to do it?
Okay, give me a second to think
Yeah.
about. So I do want to give a shout out to Villain Theory. He in that video said what type player that he thought I was. I don't think he's right, so I'm offended, Villain Theory. I don't like that you said that about me, but no, I'm just kidding. But okay, my percentages, I would say, um, okay, I got my percentages.
I think you're kind of obvious from how you talk about the game. You're a spike player. So I would say it's like 75-25. And then 75 spike, 20 Johnny, and then like 5% Timmy.
Dang,
That's it.
what? Okay, you have also offended me, Char. You guys are not my friends anymore. I don't like this at all. I don't like how the community sees me. I don't think it's accurate. Um, yeah, so everyone sees me as a crazy spike player, and maybe I'm the one that's wrong. I don't see myself as a spike player. I think that there's a big part of spike in me, but I think that I actually find myself more of being a Timmy player.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I think, and I mentioned that to Vinter, and he was like, well, it's like in the comment section of his Shout the Cast podcast.
Oh,
But
okay, okay.
yeah, so I love more than anything like big cards and big finishes. So before I even knew about like
Mm,
all the names of like the Spike, Johnny, Timmy thing, my favorite card in the game is the Peter Parker Spider-Man Justice Ally, the 5 cost Justice Ally that came in the Rise
I
of Red
love that
Skull.
card.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he's just the art is so cool in the card. He's 5 costs, so I can't always play it, but I love getting him down. I'm biased for Spider-Man too, so there's that too. But like his on-play impact is crazy, being able to remove 3 times player threat. So if you have 4 players, he can take 12 off of a scheme, which is really good. And then, but he's hard to play. He's like not, and I'm not the biggest fan of heroes that play like very cheap events, like 1 cost events, 0 cost events. I usually like to play more big cost having heroes like Spider-Man with his 3 swing web kicks, or 3 cost swing web kicks. And my favorite thing to do on my channel is to play 3 swing web kicks on 1 turn to defeat the villain.
Yeah.
I played 4 before. I love that big finish, and that's kind of why I like Venom Goblin so much, because the player is very the scenario wants the player to defeat it in one big like 1 turn kill. So that's why it's
Right.
my favorite scenario, because I get to do one final like big push for him. I like to do a lot of damage in my last turn, build up and do like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 damage on 1 turn. So I actually consider myself, I would say 50%
Right.
Timmy, like very, very
Okay.
Timmy, like
Wow.
wanting to play the big cards. I think that that's where the most satisfaction comes for me in Marvel Champions. And then I would say after that, I'm 40% Spike. So definitely very close to a Timmy. But I think if I didn't have the
Yeah.
Timmy, it would be like, I don't know, for me, playing each turn and doing like just like 5 damage each turn and not having that big burst is a way not as fun way to play Marvel Champions.
Yeah.
And then yeah, but I do like optimizing it, and I do want to play the best I can given given a certain hand and all that stuff. And then Johnny, I don't really consider myself much of a Johnny player. I've been growing that more recently, really from speaking with the community, and I think after speaking with you, I might change my mind on that as well. But before, maybe like 5%, but I think I've grown to like maybe 10% now.
So I think I would say that so now that you've really spelled it out into words, I can kind of see it. So how I see it, it's kind of like you're a Timmy by heart, but Spike by necessity. So you give the 50-40. I feel like I would put it 50-40, but it's just in the other way. Because I think because of the type of villains you like to play, you have to build your decks in ways that are extremely optimal. And when I said you're like a Timmy by heart, but a Spike by necessity, it's because yes, playing the 3 swing web kicks is what you want to do like every time you go against Venom Goblin. But in order to get there, what you had to do was make the most optimal deck, all the resource generators, all the event tutors and everything, so you can have them all in your hand, do that one big moment, and that's your payoff for like clocking in, making the Spike deck, and then boom, I get to do my huge turn, and that's the end. I don't know. I don't want to. That's how I see it.
No,
I
I
think
yeah.
though how you explained it makes a lot of sense. So apologies if I offended you on the Spike only.
Yeah, I mean, you offended me just as much as Villain Theory offended me. He also called me a spike player. He said, "Speaking of spike players, I want to give a shout out to Webword Fanatic." I was like, "What? Don't even say my name, dude." No, but I mean, based on what you said, I think I would actually agree. Yeah, I feel like I do have to spike it up to get to the Timmy part, and I think that I'm not just putting in a bunch of big events in my deck, right? I don't even have any
Yeah.
in the Spider-Man deck, so I feel like that's a fair assessment to say that I am more spiked than Timmy, even though I don't want to be, but maybe it's just a part of me that's it's like the spike part of me taking over.
Yeah, so I would say like if you only sat down and played Absorbing Man all day, you could put anything in your deck, and then that would be full Timmy like 90%. But
Yeah,
Ronin and Venom Goblin call you to clock in, so to say.
yeah.
So
I think that's interesting because I feel like we probably want to play like be a certain type of player, but I think maybe no one wants to be Spike. I feel like because I feel like I am what
no,
probably the community thinks is like the most Spike player, and I don't want to be Spike. I want to be. I thought I was Timmy, but I think that hearing you say that, I probably am a little bit more Spike than Timmy. So I think it's interesting thinking about like how much people think they are and how much Spike takes over, and just
yeah.
takes over that conversation.
That's why I say Spike for me, even though it's like Johnny, someone who's like theme and wants to do cool combos. Spike for me is just like I see this really cool thematic card. I'm like, man, I'm just not gonna play this. I'm gonna put For Justice in my deck because I want to win too. So
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna play this kind of like behind the curve justice thwarting event because why would I make my deck worse? That'll happen sometimes. So
Yeah.
it happens. Spike gets to us all.
Yeah, I remember you said that in some of your videos too, how you're like a little bit of spike like coming out to take over.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially in multiplayer too. It's like if I'm playing leadership in multiplayer, Maria Hill goes in 100% of the time. Like it's just not even a
Oh yeah, she's
question.
so
It's just an
good.
auto include. It's just she goes in the deck. Like
Yeah.
it's
How much do
just it
you
is what it is.
how much do you think like playing One Piece and other like TCGs influence your spike? Like do you think that if you just start playing more champions without any of that background, would you be like a full-on Johnny player and just like be losing all the time, be like, I don't even care about winning. I just want to play these like fun cards that aren't very good at all.
I think I agree with that 100%. I think if I never discovered a TCG competitively before this game, I think I would think I would be like 90% Johnny. I think I would just my whole day would be spent finding a deck that no one's made before and then getting the one recording out of 10 where it actually worked and being like check this out, and then I put a disclaimer, this deck is not that it's terrible, but like your results may vary, and then let people go off into the world
Yeah,
with
nice.
this.
Yeah. Okay, so the next topic that I want to talk about was actually something that you mentioned a little bit earlier, and this actually ties into the first channel member question that I have. So shout out to Ritzy Rios who asked this question, and it was actually something that I wanted to discuss with you a little bit too. So it's about stretching theme in Marvel and being able to, what defines like being thematic. So let me read what Ritzy Rios asked here. Let me see, I got to pull it back up. So they wrote, as you know, I spent a lot of time thinking about optimal decks and how they could be thematic. So for a lot of my gameplay, it's maybe not as thematic, right? Like I have like Magneto taking down Ronin and going through the Galaxy's Most Wanted. For me, I really like that because I always imagine Magneto like in space with Asteroid M. So it has like a little thematic thing for me. And then Ritzy often comments on my gameplay, and they have like a really like long thematic story tying like why this would make sense, like what Ronan would want to do to mutants, and then Magneto needs to go into space to like defeat Ronan and like do all that stuff. So they try to find a story connection between the games, and then they said that they're curious on your opinion on taking an optimal deck against a seemingly absurd matchup. So like something that you mentioned earlier was like, let's say Absorber Man, and you have like, I don't know, Cyclops against Absorber Man, right? And then trying to come up with reasons why it would occur. And they personally find it find it as a fun writing exercise and different approach to keeping the max in mind. And one thing I do want to add on to before I have you answer is my personal opinion is like, I love Spider-Man versus like Green Goblin, right? I think it's super thematic. It's very, very, I love picturing that matchup in my head and all that stuff. But I like seeing Spider-Man versus like Magneto. I want to see Spider-Man versus like, Apocalypse, right? For me, some of the coolest stuff in Marvel is whenever there's a collab. Like I love the comics with Spider-Man and Wolverine whenever they're like, together and they fight a little bit and they like team up. I love that part of Marvel. So against the argument of like anything in Marvel is thematic because these characters have probably interacted at one point in time. Like Cyclops has interacted with Captain America. They interacted with Nick Fury. Like, what do you feel about stretching the thematics and saying like, hey, you know what? It is thematic for Cyclops team with Captain America or something like that.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways to approach it. I think it's completely fine to enjoy the game in the way that you want. And if stretching thematics is that, even though I don't even necessarily think that that's stretching, because like you said, there's the multiverse. These characters have probably interacted in a comic 30 years ago, and you could make a whole gameplay scenario based off of that. Like there's just so much to history to pull from that if the levers or kind of like the level of thematics a game needs to reach for you is completely and totally normal. For me, it's a thing where it's kind of hard to really quantify what I find thematic and what I don't, and like how that enables me to have more fun rather than less. But generally speaking, it's kind of like a number of plays type of thing. So it's like at a very base level, it'll be like it has to match the team. So like it'll be Avengers villain, Avengers ally, or sorry, Avengers villain, Avengers hero, X-Men villain, X-Men hero. But after I've done a matchup enough times, then it's where my own kind of like meter for thematic, I guess, lowers, where it's like, all right, now we're gonna go like not multiversal, but like we'll go across the galaxy. So like instead of this space X-Men villain being fought by Cyclops. Now it's being fought by the Guardians of the Galaxy because they're a space themed team, right? So it's just one of those things where, and I think a side note for the person who submitted this question, thank you. And I think that's a ton of fun trying to give flavor write ups to matchups because I do that probably in my head without even realizing it. When my friend sits down, he's like, I want to play Mr. Sinister today, and the only deck I have made is Spider Man. I'm like, sure. I probably go through the motions in my own head thinking why this would even be happening. But I think that's completely fun and a valid way to do it. And I imagine once I finish kind of like my titular series, Marvel Rewind, when I've done every single thematic matchup that I can, I'm going to be more open to doing matchups like that. And I'm going to find them just as much fun, if not more, because now I'll be... And I guess one last point on theming where... theming for me also comes to another video I uploaded recently. It kind of ties into embodying the hero fully. So even if the matchup at the end of the day is the most outlandish pairing you could think of, being able to embody that hero really just uplifts that theming to a way that kind of I can even have fun with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I know that you don't think like that anyone needs to play the same way that you're playing, in case anyone thinks that.
Right.
Like, Char's not saying, like, oh, the way that he's playing is the correct way to play. It's just the way that he prefers to play. So I think that's what my chair member and what I wanted to know was, like, if you would be open to that maybe in the future. And it sounds like that you are. So just right now,
Yeah,
you still
for
want to
sure.
stick to the I would say, I don't know how to say, like, the more traditional thematics of it, right? Like, if you're facing
Yes.
Thanos, you want to play as, you know, maybe an Avenger, or if you're facing like Sinister, you want to play as an X-Men. But in the future, you can have more ways to cope and to have Spider-Man like
Yeah.
versus Sinister. I think coping is something that I do a lot in Marvel Champions, and I actually like that word because someone commented. I think it was like one of my Magneto games where I used what's that called? I used the gun, the red gun from the Galaxy's Most Wanted.
Hand cannon.
Hand cannon, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's fire. Like Magneto, like even controlling the hand cannons with like magnets, and he's like making them like shoot. You know what I mean? Like, without like touching them.
Oh,
So like
yeah.
for me, I think that's so cool. But then someone commented like, I would never play Magneto with hand cannons. I'm like, what? Like he can totally turn the gun around and like use them and like use guns to shoot people without even touching them. But yeah, for me, I always like imagine people with like I'm forgetting all the names right now, but the lightsaber card from the pool aspect. I love giving that to
Laser
like
swords, yeah.
yeah, the laser swords. I like giving that to SPDR. I want to give that to Spider-Ham. I want to give it to everyone, and then like just imagine them holding like a lightsaber. It doesn't matter who they are, but they're like swinging around and like, you know, slicing people up.
To that commenter about the Magneto hand cannon, what? He can't bring his own weapon to a fight? Come on. It's so fun. No. Yeah, no. The thing about pool specifically, that aspect specifically messes with my theme, but I kind of am okay with it completely. It's kind of the same thing as like Spider Ham, where I'm just okay with it because it's like it's goofy, and also I really like pool, which, you know, it's a very divisive aspect against people. I have the same critiques as everyone, where I wish they would give it more cards more often, but I like it for what it is.
Yeah,
So it's okay. I can suspend and cope when I play pool as well in some matchups because it's fun.
yeah. It's cool to hear that you also cope because I know I do a lot of coping when I'm playing Marvel Champions. All right, so the
Yeah,
next,
sometimes I
yeah.
have to put the Maria Hill in the X-Men deck, and I'm like, you know what? She just wanted to tag along.
Yeah, no, that's actually I don't think I've actually ever included Maria Hill in an X-Men deck, and I always include her when I play leadership, and I do it pretty not guiltily. Like I don't feel guilt whenever I include her, but X-Men, because of like Utopia and wanting like everyone to be X-Men to keep like Uncanny like online, that's like the only deck that I don't include Maria in. But for like Avenger stuff, I still include her in like early games to still get her down and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the next question. This wasn't a question. This is what we're just talking about basically. But someone commented. Shouts to Nocturnal Duck. He commented, "I struggle to use hand cannons on any hero that thematically would not use them." So what
So
is yeah
funny.
what is your opinion on that? Would you use hand cannons on like let's say Hulk or like a hero that has no right to be holding some hand cannons?
So I was seen as a really big theme player, but I think that this is even extrapolating even farther than I go. So if I'm playing a hero in aggression, usually the level of granularity I go to is villain hero. Deck building considerations to an extent they have an effect, but not to the effect of like I wouldn't give Hulk a hand cannon. If I think, how do I put this? if hand cannon helps me embody the hero and their hero kit more, I just kind of ignore the art on the card. And I'm like, when I attack, it gives me 2 damage. Like,
Yeah.
so at that point, even though it goes against my own thematics, I kind of like if it goes against too far, I'll just ignore it. If it's not far enough, I'll be like, oh, Hulk just wanted to bring the hand cannon. Yeah, that's fun. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's even more big theme people than me out there. So thank you for the comment. I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. Shouts to Angus for the comment, and I apologize for all the time that I've offended you by doing just crazy stuff that you need to cope like so hard to like imagine me using that stuff for in my games. Okay, the next question is shouts to Mark, and he asked, which hero and which villain do you each think has the least and worst thematic integration? So I guess if you're using this hero against a
Ooh.
specific villain, what it's like you would never do this matchup.
That's oh man, I got to think a little bit. I think on that. So if you have one, I'll try and spend my time thinking. But
I don't actually did not think about it. But let me okay, I can go really quick because I think that for me, I care less about like the max like fitting because I cope really hard to make them fit, right? So let's say I'll do like Hulk against like maybe like a really small like X-Men villain. Hulk against what are people called? The Morlock Siege.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe that's
yeah.
not like Hulk like just destroying the Morlocks or not the Morlocks, the 7 people that like are attacking the Morlocks, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Riptide and
the
all those people. The
Marauders, I
Marauders.
think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I
yeah.
guess I would say that's kind of slimy. Yeah, I don't know.
Uh, I would say it's so. I think like where they're located in the team they're part of does have a effect on it as well. So I would say something as man, I can't see Adam Warlock ever caring about like the Wrecking Crew or something like that. Like someone so
Mm,
like high up, cosmic, universal type of power scaling. I can't imagine him ever caring about some guys making trouble in downtown New York. Like I don't know,
yeah.
like stuff like that where like they're so far removed team wise and then also power wise, like you said with Hulk and the Morlock Siege. I think any one of those would be like absolutely I don't even know. Like every time I fought in Wrecking Crew, it's like Wasp or Miss Marvel or someone like street level kind of Adam Warlock in that scenario would just even for me, I would be like, I don't know how I'm gonna
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna maybe they stole the soul stone or something. I don't know. Like
Yeah, I mean they can never even get the Soul Stone, like not
yeah,
the Wrecking Crew.
exactly.
Yeah, no, I think
They're
that's a really good answer. Yeah, I actually really like the
yeah.
answer. I would change my answer to yours because yeah, I think that's a fun thing to think about. Like Adam Warlock, why are you fighting the Wrecking Crew? Or like even like Magneto, why you fight the Wrecking Crew? Like yeah, it's just like these guys with like
They're like kind of
wrenches.
beneath them at that point, in
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
Like
yeah. Shout outs to Mark for the question, and then the next question is from Jasco Gaming, and then he asked, incurring fans need to know. So you answered this earlier. I didn't say anything because I wanted to wait for his question here. He said, "Is Gambit your favorite character in the game?" And you
oh,
just said
I don't,
Cyclops is your favorite X Men. So why is your channel name the Charred Gambit if Cyclops is
yeah.
your favorite X Men?
So we're asking the hard hitting questions here. So, um, I would say no. Gambit is not my favorite X Men, to the dismay of the commenter. I love Gambit though; he's awesome. Especially if you've checked out the newest animated season, he's awesome. I love Gambit; he's amazing. Um, but no, so the reason why, so when I was trying to think of a channel name, so like I alluded to way in the past earlier, Char is what I've gone by in multiple different variations online for about 10, 12 years. So I was like, I'm making a new channel. It has to have Char in it. So I was like, okay, what can I do? I was like, Charred sounds cool, I guess. And I was like, okay, I'm doing a card game, but I don't want it to be so strictly Marvel tied, like in the name. Even though Gambit is an X-Men, but I was thinking Gambit more like playing poker or like traditional card games. Like
Mm,
it's a move, like it's like your final Gambit. It's like your final technique. That's kind of like maybe that Johnny, that kind of like style, what like having fun with it. That's really where it comes from.
oh
It's
snap!
just like a pun for it's just a pun for like traditional card games like poker, blackjack,
Yeah.
and things like that.
Oh
So to your
yeah.
dismay, sadly, no, Gambit is not my favorite X Men. It is Cyclops. But I do love Gambit as well.
Oh snap! I didn't know that. So there's no tie into like Gambit from X Men at all in your channel name. Yeah.
No, no.
That
So like
is
my channel
yeah.
icon is also a card, which is also Gambit themed, but he uses a deck of cards. So
Yeah.
I realized what I was getting myself into when I made the name, and I like Gambit, so I didn't, I thought it sounded cool, and I'm like, it ties in with X-Men kind of, and it's like kind of Marvel-ish.
Yeah.
It's like a double entendre. It works out in the end.
Yeah.
He's not my favorite, but he's definitely in my top 5. I think
Yeah.
it works out. I
Gotcha.
love Gambit.
All right, you guys heard it here. For like people that think that Gambit is Chard's favorite character, it's not. He's actually the Chard Cyclops.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't roll off the tongue as well. There
Yeah,
you
yeah,
go.
true.
You see why.
And then Jasco, he actually has a multi-layer question. So Jasco
Okay.
is actually his favorite characters are Cyclops and Iron Man. So Cyclops is I think he'll be fine with that answer. And he asks you specifically, how do you feel about Iron Man? He wants to know specifically for Iron Man.
Ooh. Okay, so Iron Man's funny, and I'm gonna get on a not a long tangent, hopefully not.
It's okay.
So when I got the core box, like I said, like a year or so ago, and I went through it for the first time, the only hero that I played once out of the core box was Iron Man, and it's because even though I had a TCG background and I understood the flipping and whatnot, I wasn't good enough at the game to get him to work. Like I didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing. Like I did, it just felt like the way that I thought about threat and villain scheming was so much worse than I think about it today. Like how when I play games today, I'm super fine with villains popping their first main scheme if it means that they're never gonna pop their second. But back then, my idea was, oh, I can't ever let them pop the first main scheme because I'm one away from losing, and I don't think like that at all anymore. So that really prevented me from playing Iron Man correctly because, like, okay, sometimes I would get one, maybe two upgrades on the board, and then I would flip up. I'd have 3 cards in my hand, and I'd just lose the game. Like it just like wasn't even close. Especially because I chose to fight Claw, which I think is his worst core box matchup by far. I think he does way better against Rhino and Ultron, at least in my experience. But yeah, so all that being said, I was very not fond of him at the beginning. I was like, this hero is. I thought he was weak, but I realized it was because I was not good at the game. And then I came back to him, a couple months back, maybe like I'd say a couple months, maybe half a year ago, when I was kind of revisiting when I was better at the game and I was trying to fight some villains on expert, and I was starting with the core box again. And I didn't necessarily go in order, but I started with the core box villain, and I took out Iron Man. I'm like, okay, let me give him a try again. And it just clicked. I was like, okay, I don't need to flip up on the first turn. Sometimes in solo you really do, especially if Claw gets like Radioactive Man or some insane card. But I just don't fight Claw. That's kind of my answer to that question. I'll just fight a different villain. But against villains where he can actually stay down that first turn, as long as you flip up with a 4 card, even 5 card hand, and like you take one attack and you flip back down, you use your forgot what his alter ego ability is called. You just
Futurist.
even after 1 or 2 turns of setup, you just instantly you just steamroll almost every villain I found, and I had a lot of fun doing that. So, in a grand scheme of how much I enjoy heroes, he went from like a 2 to like a 7. I like him. I don't put him on the table every time. I think he's fun. Yeah, I don't have much more to say than that. He's fun. He's probably not my top 15, but he's not close to my bottom 15 like he used to be. So
Yeah.
that's my answer to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, nice. I think Jasco will like that answer. Yeah, Iron Man's also one of my favorites. It's crazy. Like Iron Man, She-Hulk, and Spider-Man are like 3 of my top 10 favorite heroes, and they're all in the core set. So I really like the simplicity in their kits. And Iron Man specifically, I think he's tons of fun. I think there's so many different ways to play him in different aspects, and yeah, just the process of building him out feels unlike any other hero, and I really like building out his suit. So
I
another
agree. It's awesome.
yeah. And then another question from Jasco is, how do you rate Doctor Strange? I think he means power level wise. So do you think Doctor
Power
Strange from Chard is he the strongest hero in the game of Marvel Champions?
Okay, so I know this was a topic on your channel a couple of months back. I was following it as well. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was a good discussion to have. So I'll say that. It's really hard to talk about hero power because you have to set the guidelines. So if I'm going to talk about this, I'll set some guidelines. So we're gonna say expert. We're gonna say solo specifically, and we're also going to say expert solo, and it's against how well he does against all the villains. So what? I'll do it 2 separate ones. All the villains, and then specifically the hardest villains.
Wait, wait,
So those are going to be my
yeah, I do
criteria.
want to add
Oh,
one
okay,
thing.
go
So
ahead.
whenever you say against all, this is like one of my biggest things whenever I talk
Right, go
about this
ahead.
thing. whenever you say all the villains, that includes Expert Venom Goblin and Expert
Right.
Ronin,
Right.
right? So like one thing I always say that a lot of people are, I would say they don't quote me correctly, is that
Right.
if like let's say Doctor Strange can defeat Absorbing Man more easily than Peter Parker Spider Man, and he defeats Rhino more easily, Claw more easily, Ocean more easily, right? So he defeats a bunch of villains more easily than Spider Man does. But then he struggles, and let's say he defeats him at like let's say like 1 out of 10, like for how difficult it is, he does like a
Yeah.
2 for like all of them, right? And let's say Spider Man is like a 4 for all of them. Then if you're doing like Expert Ronin and Expert Venom Goblin, if Strange is like a 7 difficulty, but then Spider Man's like a 5 difficulty, like I would take the hero that has 4s all across and like a 5 for like the tough ones versus like 2s all across and the 7 for the tough ones. Those numbers aren't like my actual numbers. It's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
was just thinking off the top of my head. But I like for me, that's why whenever I evaluate the strongest heroes, if like a certain hero is like an 11 difficulty, like some heroes just get hard countered. Like I think Deadpool gets hard countered by Ultron because of the concussive
Right.
blasting, one damage to him, alter ego, and just killing him. So like that hero to me has to take more points like drop down because of that. So if you want to do a list like separate of the
Yeah.
Venom Goblin
Yeah.
X Ronin, then yeah.
Yeah.
But if you are saying specifically for all villains, I do want to. I feel like that expert Venom Goblin and Ronin count into that like pretty heavily.
Yeah, so they do. So I just want to set two criteria here because I know that's where I think a lot of the discourse between people who talk about this comes from because I understand your perspective where you like a more consistently balanced strength hero where again he's gonna, let's say Spider-Man's a 4 on Absorbing Man, but he's also a 5 on 5 on Ronin, and then Doctor Strange is a 1 on Absorbing Man. You will literally never lose, but he's a 7 on Ronin. He has like kind of a tough time with him. You would prefer the one that's more all around, and I can totally see that. For me, how I quantify strength in the game. That's why I wanted to split only the hardest because I think that's where he struggles the most. I don't think there's any news there. I think that's well known. And then overall, I think overall when you're talking about strength and the reason why I want to do an overall is because if you were to take Doctor Strange and you're going to take a deck and put it, I guess, in a randomizer or fight all the villains in a row, like what would his strength look like at the end of that 51 hero gauntlet? And I think when you do that on expert solo, he is easily like top 3. I think he just dumpsters a ton of villains. But I don't think that's what anyone wants to hear me talk about. We're going to talk about the hardest villains, where I don't think I necessarily have a hot take on saying that he struggles more with them. And I don't know if I'm going to differ wildly from you here. He's still probably, I would say he's still definitively a top 10 hero, but I can definitely see a case that he is not top 5 when talking about the strongest villains in this game. I think he has a lot of positives in even just within his base kit. You have his cape that readies him. He has 2 base thwart. He has like good events, like no other. There's gonna be times when you open Wand of Tomb with the one that lets you repeat it on the first turn. No other hero really can match that. You're just like drawing 6 cards on the first turn, and if you have a well built deck, I mean, you're gonna be able to get through these scenarios, like with even the hardest ones. But that doesn't always happen, so we have to talk about the average. And I think a top 10 for him when you're talking about the strongest heroes in the game is probably fine. But I think I tend to value the game overall, and that's maybe just a difference that we have where I'd put him probably top 5, even considering how much he struggles with specifically the top tier of the game.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to give 2 answers there because I can see
Yeah.
from how you view the game, and I'm not saying that how you view strength, difficulty, and whatnot is wrong. I just think it's different from how I view it, and that's why that disconnect, and that's what spawns discussion, and that's fine. I can totally see and agree where you're coming from. It's just I tend to value how consistently strong he is against most of the game,
Yeah.
and it's okay that he struggles in a couple because you can almost deck build around it. Like obviously not 100%,
Yeah.
but you can, you have options. Is
Yeah.
kind of and he's not like a helpless hero against the upper echelon.
Yeah.
He still does have a 0 cost cards that draws him 3. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's totally fair. I think that, that anyone can have their own opinion. I do want to, I didn't expect this to be, I didn't even know that was a part of his question, but yeah, this is not supposed to be a power level debate here, but yeah, I guess we're getting into a little bit, but yeah, for Doctor Strange, I do want to address the people that are probably outraged right now because there are some people that have told me that they think Doctor Strange is really good against Expert Venom Goblin and Expert Ronin. Um, just in my experience, I don't think that he's very good against those scenarios, and I guess in your
Yeah.
experience as well. But we totally acknowledge that there are people out there that have demolished Expert Venom Goblin and Ronin with Strange. So I mean, that's just my personal experience playing him, and yeah, it's just kind of what I've experienced with the hero, and I'm sure that what you're saying is also just what you experienced too. We're not saying that anything we're saying is objective, like
Yeah.
a factor or anything like that.
And
And then yeah.
oh, go ahead. Oh, I was
No,
just
go
saying, I
ahead.
wanted to jump in one slight thing because I feel like multiplayer is also really underrepresented talking about in like podcasts and things. Obviously, it's just so much easier to record solo. I think in multiplayer specifically, he gets way stronger. Like I think he is definitively like top five, and this one card, and it's not even the one that draws him three. It's the three tough statuses, and you just go on a table and you support the whole table, and you will. These scenarios just Strange in multiplayer. I think is way better than he is in solo, which is crazy because I think he's really good in solo.
Yeah.
So
It's great. So I think it's completely fair, but I think that we have the opposite opinion on this.
really,
And yeah,
okay, you
I
think he's
see.
stronger?
Yeah, I see the comments like this all the time. So like I'll have some people comment and they'll say that, dude, you're being ridiculous, Web Warrior. Strange is the strongest solo hero, like hands down. I can see maybe in multiplayer why he's not. And I'll have the same like different people comment the complete opposite. You're crazy, Web Warrior. Strange is the strongest hero in multiplayer, maybe in solo, like he's not. I personally think that he's strong in true solo because I think that statuses are much stronger in true solo. And I think that if he's able to Sunlock and Confuse Lock an enemy, right? Like just constantly playing his attack invocation, the Crimson Bands of Ragador. I don't no,
Mhm. Yeah,
that's a tough one. But yeah, the
yeah,
Crimson Bands of Cyttorak, it's like the damaging one,
yes.
right? Yeah, so if you get to stun off, and then he's also playing the Images of Icon, which is the Confuse one, and you can just stun the enemy, stay in hero form, confuse it, flip down to Arch Ego, and keep on doing it over and over again. I think that that's where his power shines the most. And definitely the seven rings of Ragnarok, that's the one where you pass out four tufts across the table. Or
Right.
is it three? And if he passes tufts
I
around the
think it's
table.
three. I think it's three.
Okay. Yeah, so like the three tufts. I think that's really good in multiplayer, but I think that it's overstated because I've heard people say that he can do that every single turn. It's one card of the invocation deck, and he has to cycle through it. He can't cycle through the whole entire deck in one turn unless you're very heavily built out. And at that point, you don't really need those tufts anymore, anyways. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a nuanced conversation. I will add in multiplayer. So this is like whenever around the time when I first started playing Mario Champions. I had one of my friends, shouts to Norris. He likes Doctor Strange the character a lot, so I gave him a Doctor Strange deck, just ally spam, like leadership, like 12 allies, make the call, all that stuff. And then we played a game in multiplayer, and he was like, "You told me Doctor Strange is the strongest hero. Like, what's going on? He's not that good." And I was like, "I don't know, man. That's just what the community told me." And then more recently, shouts to HD, my friend's wife. We played like a four-player game, and then I was like, Doctor Strange is strong. You want to play the strongest hero? And then she was like, yeah. And then I had her play it, and then she was like, he's not strong at all. And I was like, yeah, he's not the strongest hero. Like that's what that's what the community says. I don't think that either. So yeah, I don't know. Like that's just kind of my personal experience playing him, and it. We're going way too much into this, but
Well,
for Doctor
yeah.
Strange thing, like people will tell me in many of my playthroughs are like, you're not playing Doctor Strange correctly. Like you need to do this specific deck with like this to like make him better. And I'm like, dude, I'm playing ally spam with leadership. I'm playing like a pull aspect deck, which I think is really good with him. Like, if you need to like really cater in that much to like maximize this hero, I think that that's another argument for why he's not. I don't. But that's just my personal opinion. Yeah.
No,
That's.
I'll say I agree. I don't think in any player count, solo, multiplayer, he's the best hero at all. Like, I won't put him number one at any. Maybe if we're only rating standard villains only, that I would say he's probably number one. I don't really tend to talk about difficulty like that. I tend to do like the expert recommended modular sets and all of that. Yeah, I don't think he's number one in any player count. I just do think, in my own experience, which has been different from yours, I find him much stronger in multiplayer. But I think in almost every single player count, he's definitely one of the top tier heroes in the game. Whether you think he's number one, I don't think he's number one. If you do, I think that's totally valid. But yeah.
Oh man, like this is not good because now you're supposed to balance me out. So now
Yeah.
instead of just people being like Web Warrior, you're entitled wrong. They're gonna say Web Warrior and Chard. You guys are so off about Doctor Strange.
Oh, I got one. I got one to go against. I'll say I think the strongest in solo is Spider Ham. I think you've been
Okay.
touting Cable, so I'll say that. There we go. We have something to disagree
Okay.
on.
Yeah, you're wrong, Char. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think Sparham is definitely. I mean, he to me is number two. He was my number one until I played more Cable, and I was like, man, like I yeah. But I mean, Sparham, he's definitely in that
I
conversation
love
as well.
Cable too,
Yeah.
but I also think he's also another hero that I don't in that sort of helping the table out in multiplayer. I think he gets stronger in multiplayer
Oh
too.
man,
So
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah. Like that's so like Cable's the same thing. Like for me, I think he's stronger in true solo. So we have the different perspectives for that one as well. And it's crazy because people comment many times that Cable is only good in true solo and that he's not good in multiplayer. But I have people like you that tell me like how great he is in multiplayer, and I personally had a really good experience with Cable in multiplayer as well, like helping the whole table. My wife loves it when I play Cable because I can support her and she can just attack.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I think that yeah, it's
so
very
many
interesting.
opinions, so
Yeah,
many
yeah, these are all
opinions.
opinions, and it's really interesting that we have different perspectives on both Cable and Strange, right? I think for Strange, you think that Strange is better in multiplayer. I think he's stronger in solo. I think Cable is stronger in solo, and you think he's yeah. I just think solo's the stronger for both, and then you think they're both better in multiplayer. That's really interesting. Jasco
Gotta
has
get a
more questions.
multiplayer game on the table.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, totally. And then Joshua actually has more questions. So we got a few more to go. So he asked, "Is Spider-Man a hero or a menace?"
Ooh. Hmm. I'm not gonna fall for Jay Jonah's propaganda. I think it's definitely Hero. Come
Okay.
on,
I was like, what are you thinking about? That should be like that was way
some
too much thought.
suspense, some
I
suspense.
that's
The
that's fair.
theatrics for the podcast, the people
Yeah, yeah.
listening at home. So
Jasco is getting
no,
us
he's
in
a
like
hero.
yeah,
Spider Man's awesome. I love
yeah,
Spider Man.
yeah. I disagree. No, no, I totally agree. And then he also asked, "What are your favorite decks for each of these characters?" So for
Okay.
Gambit, for Iron Man, Strange, and Spider Man, if you play them a
Yeah.
lot in specific deck, like just what decks do you like for these guys?
Gambit is awesome in aggression. I'm just always gonna say it. He does so much damage with his counters. What was the next one? We'll speed run it a
Uh,
little. Iron Man.
yeah,
Ooh. I think the tried and true one for him is his repurpose build, and I think it's really strong. I think I also like just putting a bunch of allies on the board because it helps him with his weaker early game. I'm gonna go leadership on this one. I don't
oh
really have a
okay,
specific deck, but
yeah.
leadership is really fun.
And then we have
Um,
Strange and Spider Man.
Strange. Oh my gosh. Strange is he's one of those heroes that every time I put him on the table, I really like the hero, so I'll put that ahead of everything too. I love Strange as a character, so I love his hero kit and everything he does. So the aspect almost doesn't matter. If I had to pick one, I it's like solo is different from multiplayer. I would say it's definitely not Justice. I would say it's probably solo is probably like aggression or pool. And I
Okay.
would say
Ooh.
multiplayer is probably defense because I just love giving the toughs and then there's like
Yeah.
kind of like the alliance cards that give toughs and like you can just do so much with the economy you have to like help the other people uplift them. It's
Yeah.
that I found a lot of fun doing that in multiplayer specifically.
Yeah.
And then
That.
Spider-Man, I'm gonna have a really boring answer here. I play Spider-Man a ton, but I played a mod in solo, so the tried and true answer is Justice. I think it's just really fun.
Yeah.
It's awesome. He's really good with it. I didn't have Age of Apocalypse for the longest time. I would have loved to have played the Weaving Threads. That was one of the biggest decks that
Oh.
popped off on the website. But I didn't have the card, so I couldn't do the suit
Suit
up
up.
with Moon Girl. But once I get to that to the table, it's probably going to be my go-to deck as well. So I'd say Justice, though. Historically, he's just really good. It's awesome. It
Yeah.
patches his biggest weakness, and he never has to flip down if you don't want to.
Yes. Shout outs to a Strange Pool. I love mulliganing after like casting his spell mastery, and yeah, I just feel like it's really fun. Wait, you did mention earlier. I thought you said, and maybe I remember incorrectly. I thought you said that you did not like any of the core heroes other than She-Hulk. So
Oh, um, when I say this,
maybe I,
like
I I- maybe I
none of them
misquoted you
really
by the way.
drew me
So
in.
okay,
Yeah, yeah. So like, I think if I did say that, I would say like maybe none of them drew me in like She-Hulk did. The
okay,
only one I say out of my first play that I really didn't like was Iron Man, which is the whole tangent we went into
yeah,
earlier. But no, I meant I think what I was saying there was compared to the community, how everybody
mm,
liked all the heroes minus She-Hulk from what I understood when I got online after playing through it. I felt like I was kind of like out of the deep end where I was like, oh, She-Hulk was my number one by far. Like the other core box heroes weren't even close for me.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha, gotcha. So like
yeah,
She-Hulk turned off most people from the game and then they quit. But then the other
yeah,
heroes you didn't like when you first started playing, but you love She-Hulk, and now you kind of like a lot of the other heroes from Corset as well.
yeah. Not that I didn't like the other ones. I guess Iron Man was the only one I really didn't like. I liked the other ones. It's just none of them I liked as much as She-Hulk.
Yeah,
I'll put it like
gotcha,
that.
gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. And I apologize if I misquoted you. They'll probably be like, "What? Well, he
No,
didn't even
no,
say
that's
that. What are you talking
fine.
about? Trying to stir up."
I
Um,
love talking. I can talk all day.
yeah. And then Jasco also asked, Team Maria Hill or Team Nick Fury for the two new heroes. Which one do you like more?
Man, so like there's been some reveals since this question was probably asked. Nick Fury's thematics are really fun. I just love the art on all of his cards. I'm a big, I have like a graphic background, and when I make videos, thumbnails are kind of my favorite part. So like his art is just so fun. Like all of the cards he's gotten revealed. Go watch them from all the creators if you haven't already. I'm not going to spoil any of them. But I think it still has to be Maria Hill. I think I'm talking about how much I love supporting the table on Strange and Cable and multiplayer. This is just like the natural extension of that with that hero,
Yeah.
and I think I'm gonna have a ton of fun, specifically in 2 and 3 player playing her. I think it's gonna be a great time.
Man, I
So
thought you
Maria
were gonna
Hill for
say,
sure.
yeah, I thought you were gonna say Nick Fury with that answer. Um,
No, I had to do a fake out again. Yeah, I
yeah,
love his art,
you're
but
really good at
Maria Hill
that.
is just yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Maria Hill is just the just all the big hella carriers in her
yeah,
cards. Just all of that seems so fun.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I can't wait.
yeah. I'm a big
Technically,
fan
I
of it
guess I
too.
can now with the unfortunate delays, but
Yeah,
that's another topic.
yeah. I know you saw it got pushed back now a little bit, so it's gonna be March 7th now, which is pretty nice
So
instead of March 31st.
unfortunate, but
Yeah,
at least we have a date.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last question from Jasco is: aside from champions, what is one thing you aspire to accomplish in 2025?
Oh shoot. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
getting we're
Jasco
digging deep
getting
here.
yeah, yeah.
Aside from Marvel Champions, okay, man, I'm doing a lot of traveling this year, specifically with my girlfriend, and that's gonna be fun. It's not really a goal I'm aspiring towards. I guess if we're doing channel goals, I'd like to, I'd like to say that growing isn't the number one priority. I just like sharing what I have fun with. I'm not gonna give like a PR answer, but like let's say like 1,000 subs would be cool. I mean, I don't know. That's a goal to set for
I
yourself. I
think
think it's nice
yeah,
to set those goals. Other goals other than that
I think
is
you can definitely do that.
be healthy. I think I'm a pretty healthy person, but I've had some health issues crop up in the past that I want to keep on track of. So just eating better, being more healthy, and being present with those in my life, because sometimes there's just a lot of, and I'm trying to get philosophical. Sometimes there's just a lot of distractions that can take you out of the moment, and I think it's important to give the people you care about the time they deserve. So there's
Yeah.
some wisdom from me if anyone needed that on this
Yeah, no,
podcast.
I mean, I need that. I'm like replying to like YouTube comments all the time, and my wife's like, "Can you stop replying to comments?" I'm like, "No, I need to like talk to this person. I need to reply." Yeah,
Yeah, I find myself in the same way. Probably not at the same extent, but it's the same thing where it's like I'll have a time and place for this, and it's just like be present. People want to talk to you, and I want to talk to them, and let's do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's good advice. Thank you to Jasco so much for all the questions. I appreciate you a lot. You're getting us in some hot water with like the Doctor Strange thing. This video is not supposed to have anything about Doctor Strange or power level stuff, but yeah, yeah, it was a fun conversation, and it's fun to hear your perspective on it, Char, because I didn't know that's where you stood on those things. And then I have one more question from Nar Antlers here. Shouts to Nar Antlers for the question. And he asked, he wanted me to ask you, this might be a tough one. Because I know watching your content that you have not ever defeated Expert Ronin, right? So
No,
Nar asked you, or asked me to ask you about Expert Ronin and Expert Venom Goblin. Will you be
okay.
posting any Expert Ronin or Expert Venom Goblin plays to your channel? Which hero or heroes would you use to take down the top two?
Right. So this is an easy answer. I mean, so yeah, I've never beat them on expert, but I've also never attempted to fight them on expert because for kind of the reasons I outlined earlier, where I felt like if I played a really strong deck, it kind of wouldn't feel like a I earned the win type of thing. At
Yeah,
least for my first one, that's what matters to me. Um, But the easy answer to that is yes, because I mean, I'm gonna plug my series in here. Marvel Rewind is going through every single villain in the game in order and beating
I'll check
every
it out.
villain with a limited card pool. So right now, I had just finished up Drang. I don't know when this is gonna be uploaded, but Collector One might be out. So Ronin is coming a lot sooner than you think it will. And if I remember this comment, I'll go and reply you the play. Um, Even though I'm not going necessarily strictly chronologically, because then that would mean I would have to fight him with Groot or Rocket, which again, theme also creeps in there. So I'm allowing myself the whole wave. I'm gonna spoil it. It's the most obvious matchup. It's gonna be Star Lord versus Ronin. It just makes sense. So that's gonna be my first play. I'm probably going to have so many losses because I assume the only way I'm going to get my first win is going to be rushing him down on like turn 3 or 4. But I think it'll be a lot of fun anyways. And if they're really short losses, they'll all be in the video. So that, and then if I had to think of Venom Goblin, I forgot who I had slated with that. I think because I'm probably gonna need a little help on that one too. I'm thinking Spider Ham currently for my first win. So yeah, I think they both are scary in different ways. I don't like that that Ronin gives you the extra encounter card, kind of, because you get the Milano that can cancel it. So it's like kind of sometimes an extra encounter card. And then the amount of threat that Venom Goblin puts on the board is extremely scary to me for solo even. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. It's gonna be fun. I'll pencil in Spider Ham, write in confidential ink Star Lord for Ronin. That's gonna be the matchup. I'm letting you
Yeah.
know here.
We're getting all the secrets right now. All the
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I did want to say I want to read some of the stuff that Nar Antler said. So he says if you're gonna go on WebWord Fanatic's channel, you gotta talk about Ronin Venom Goblin. And he also
Of
said
course.
like specifically how you approach these scenarios with your retrospective series using only cards available at the time. And I know that for your
Yeah.
series, like even though it's like for Ronin, it's not just like the cards that came out when Ronin came out. It's like
Right.
the whole wave, right? So you can use Star Lord and those cards that came out in those hero packs, like Gamora and all that
Right.
stuff. So I know you said for Ronin you want to probably try to rush him down with Star Lord. For Venom
Yeah.
Goblin, I will say I think that Spider Ham is an amazing matchup for Venom Goblin. I think that he can demolish him. Do you have any ideas? If not, it's okay. And feel free to change,
Yeah.
whatever you actually do. What's your strategy for Venom Goblin with Spider Ham? Do you have a specific aspect in mind or
Yeah.
anything?
Um, man, so like my go-to is usually if I'm building for power is always leadership, but I think there is a chance that justice or makes a shine too. Mostly because, well, I guess they're all main schemes, so you can't really take off all of them. Um, I don't know. I think he's the strongest hero, so whichever aspect I pick, I think I'm gonna not be fine. I think I'm gonna lose to him a couple of times before I get the win because it's my first time doing it. But I could see. Oh wait, does Spider? He has a 3 cost attack event. I always have to remember
Yeah,
that.
he
So
does.
I
He
was thinking
said it.
aggression, but he has one, so I don't have to worry about that. So maybe aggression, but probably not. It's probably going to be leadership if I had to guess. I think Star Lord's going to be the same thing. I think it's going to be leadership. And yeah, I would say like for my rewind series, I try mostly to do chronological, but it's just like it would be really boring, I think, for me and the viewers to go through the whole box. So I'm trying to match theme, playing Rocket 2 or 3 times, and then playing Groot twice or
Yeah.
something. Like I think it's one of those things where even though I'll get a hero from like technically later in time, I try my best. Like, okay, let's say I use Star Lord against Ronin. I'm gonna try my best not to use any cards from like Drax, from Venom, from Gamora, from I think Nebula was a later wave anyway, so not her. But like even though I'm gonna be using Star Lord, I'm gonna try my best to limit myself to the cards in his hero pack, the cards in that expansion box, and then everything before that. Like I don't want to just like get the whole wave at free reign. Kind of a long-winded way of
Yeah,
saying that.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that totally makes sense. Yeah. Thank you to all the channel members for all your questions. I really appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you for giving us, some heated and some not so heated topics to discuss. Thank you, Char, for answering all those questions. Yeah, that's all I have for you here. Do you have any final thoughts or anything like that?
Man, I don't think so. I'd have to think some more, but no, it was a ton of fun. Thank you for inviting me on. It was a really great discussion. I was thinking, and we'll add it at the little end segment here. I was thinking of maybe kind of changing some of your preconceived notions over DM before we got on the call because I thought you would think we would be a lot different than we were. But I think it was really funny having your candid reactions to some of my answers because I was like, I know he wasn't expecting this answer from me. So I thought that was a fun thing I did on my part. And it's the final bait and switch I did for you. Like I've been doing the entire
Yeah,
episode. So
yeah. I was like,
that was
what's
a
going
ton of
on? Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that competitive like One Piece background. So I
That
had the
spike.
spike answers,
Yeah.
ready. So there you go. There's
Yeah, no, I mean, I've learned. I mean, I thought I knew like a lot about you, but I didn't, man. I did. You really threw me off a lot on these answers, and I wasn't expecting a lot of this stuff at all. Yeah, thank you so much, Char, for coming on the channel. It was a pleasure. And yeah, I'm gonna put the links everywhere in the description, all that stuff, so people can find you. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoys the video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.